connecting dots is how I view my role. And I think a really good business owner, I remember Bedros at one point, he said, if I'm doing my job as a leader, it looks like I'm doing nothing.
So you have a passion for fitness and the desire to start your own business. But launching a massively successful fitness business is extremely complex. The systems, operations, hiring, firing, coaching, sales, and marketing are critical to success. Where do you even start? This show will give you the answers. Here is Bedros Keuilian and Bryce Henson, your hosts of the Fitness Franchise Podcast, a show dedicated to helping fitness entrepreneurs launch and grow successful gyms.
Today's episode is another amazing one, as our guest is a friend of mine who's also a peak performance expert. He is also a board-certified chiropractor in the state of New Jersey. He's a level 5 full-body certified integrative diagnosis provider. He's also a full-body certified active release technique provider, also known as ATR. He's a graduate from New York Chiropractic College and Franklin and Marshall College, and he's also the owner and founder of Barefoot Rehab in Denville, New Jersey. Dr. Chris Stepien, welcome to the show, my friend. Super excited to have you.
So happy to be here, Bryce. Thanks so much, man.
Awesome. Well, we got a lot to cover today in your zone of geniuses and kind of all the healing work that you do. But before we get there, share with the audience your backstory. How did it all come to be?
Yeah, man, I love it. I've definitely been a seeker all of my life as somebody who has struggled with enormous amounts of anxiety, depression, shame, suicidal ideation. So I remember when I was in second grade that I was already being called to the healer path. I wanted to be a veterinarian. I wanted to work with animals, or an American gladiator. Veterinarian or American gladiator. But I'm not a good enough athlete for the American gladiator thing. So the healing path just really called to me. And then just struggling with being happy and joyful as an adolescent and teenager. I remember being, I think, 11 years old in 7th grade, and I was getting blacked out drunk outside of my house. And I remember at one point, sprinting around my house butt naked. And I remember looking down at my penis, and I had no pubic hair at the time. And the reason I knew that I was way too young to be doing this shit. I was way too young to be so miserable and to be blacking out and throwing up all over my father's house. Yeah. Just struggled through high school, and in college I started burning myself with coat hangers I'd heat up on the stovetop, so I have brands all over my body. I created this fake wallet with fake dollar bills so I could go and get jumped in the bad part of town. I got taken home by the police one time. I started crying in the car how miserable I was. He's like, you need a therapist. Just really self-torturing things. So I played football in college. Football saved my life. I was always into fitness. And then I ended up being called to chiropractic school. I wanted to heal people without man-made medicines. I was never really called to that path. And that's pretty much where I ended up where I am today.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that for me, made a big impact when we first met is like your vulnerability, because you're a healer. You're such a good guy. Like, your heart is gold. And that's just something I see. It's very noticeable for me. But it's interesting that you share your vulnerabilities, insecurities, failures, etc. How do you think that's really helped you and really helped your clients? Because it's made a huge impact on me.
I love it. Well, so I think part of we're going to get to Zone of Genius, but one of my things that I think I'm really good at navigating is the emotional palette that Homo sapiens, human beings, have access to. And I learned probably in my single digits, 7, 8, 9 years old, that shame is an emotion that we have when we don't feel worthy, and that usually comes from other people or society or teams or schools putting expectations on us that aren't coming from ourselves. And so a lot of my suicidal ideation has come from me feeling like I had to be something else for somebody who's not me. And so At this point, I express myself. A lot of people say I overstep boundaries with how I share myself. But what I've learned is that if I start putting myself in a box and not expressing who I am for any specific reason, that shame, depression, and suicidal ideation will come back very, very, very quickly. And I find that a lot of people are allergic to me, and that's perfectly okay. But I also find that there are other people who very deeply want healing, and those people often thank me for the sharing of my vulnerabilities, because then they feel comfortable in sharing the shit that they've been holding on to and holding back from sharing.
And would it be fair to say that as a unique zone of genius for you, or I should say, like, why you've been so successful as a healer, because people actually do really feel comfortable and open up with you?
Yeah, I mean, it's such a vital piece of healing, especially when you're in the chronic pain world or anxiety, depression, all this other stuff, is that if people don't feel safe to share something because they don't trust you, they're going to hide things that they don't realize are important to walking the path. So I do think that if people feel comfortable enough with me to trust me because I've shared first and then they can share, it's going to allow them to go way deeper, way faster into healing paths so they can actually live the lives that they want.
Yeah. And also to acknowledge you, it's interesting you said sometimes people are allergic to you, which is interesting perspective. But one thing I notice, at least from my observations of, getting to know you the last couple of years, is you're just authentic. So while for me, maybe, you're saying that you come off too strong, or however you come off to people that are allergic to you, for me, it comes off as authentically genuine, because the energy that you radiate is just who you are. And I think people are gravitate to that. And at least speaking for myself, I certainly am.
Yeah, I mean, that's who I want to be. So that's who I want my sons to be, is I don't want them to be hiding themselves for anybody. And I want to be associated with people like yourself and friends and family and business colleagues who are their true selves. Because then if I see something that they're signaling subconsciously to me that something's off, then my subconscious goes like, okay, watch them, because that was not true. So I love that about you.
Awesome, man. Well, appreciate that. Well, lots to ground to cover. I want to kind of transition, because a lot of our audience are either entrepreneurs or wantrepreneurs. They want to take that next step and either own a fitness business or some other franchising model. So I want to talk about your experience as an entrepreneur. But before we do, I know you had a CrossFit background, and in your own words, it didn't work out the way you thought it would. But I think there's a lot of gold. There's a lot of value there. So can you just share a little bit about, your CrossFit journey, why you became an owner, kind of what the experience looked like, maybe some really big highlights and also some big challenges and takeaways that our audience can learn from?
I love it. I went to chiropractic school from 2006 to 2010, and I started CrossFitting in November of 2007. And chiropractors are generally taught, like, yeah, you can fix pain, but this whole wellness model is really pushed. Like, you can see people forever, just help them stay healthy. And I didn't like the idea of treating people to have them keep coming back to keep them healthy. So when I found CrossFit, I loved the modality of it in order to keep people healthy and well. And so as I was doing it, I was like, oh, wait, hold on a second. The chiropractic practice should not be the hub of a wellness type practice. It felt to me like it should be fitness, because we all need to be fitness. We all need to be healthy. If people are working out well, they'll be eating well. So I knew that as soon as I graduated in 2010, I wanted to operate out of a CrossFit gym. So I started my practice in 2010 out of a CrossFit gym. In 2012, I opened my own CrossFit gym from 2012 to 2017. And it was awesome. I mean, there are a lot of things that I like about it. The community aspect, I know Fit Body Bootcamp does this as well. People need community. We need our tribe. We need to move functionally. We need to move the way that nature intended for us to move. So that was wonderful. It was awesome to see people fit. I got to see how the whole Paleolithic diet framework used for people to lose weight and to heal their medical conditions. I made a lot of mistakes in this gym. A lot of mistakes, a lot of lessons. I partnered with individuals. I got married to some business partners way too early. We were dating after 3 to 4 months of knowing each other. That's not, I don't recommend that any of my friends get married to anybody unless it's been years and years of getting to know an individual. So we just didn't have the same allegiances, the same vision for where we were going. I thought that I was a powerful, intelligent enough individual to be able to handle my practice and the gym, and I wasn't. So I was trying to skip steps in order to get to a place in the future that I saw I could have, but I was rushing things, and it caused me to be not doing anything well. Certain individuals in the gym were sleeping with other members in the gym, and that was a complete fiasco.
Yep.
Horrible partnership agreement, a horrible partnership agreement that completely shot me in the foot, where three of us, so two of my other business partners against one other individual, our other business partner, were essentially in a legal battle for like 2 years. We were so stressed out. My business partner, Katie, who's actually my life partner now, she had such bad adrenal fatigue that she was teaching a power clean, and she actually passed out in front of the class. She was so stressed about this whole situation. So ironclad partnership agreement is so vital if you're going to have partners. Yeah.
And would you even recommend, and granted there's probably no one size fits all, but this isn't the first time I've ever heard of a partnership gone south. So what would your recommendation be to like a budding entrepreneur? Is it worth having a partner? Like, is it something that you should stay away? Curious on your insights from that experience.
Yeah, to be honest, it hasn't scared me away from having partners again. I do plan on having partners with the current doctors in our clinic in the future. I'm just going to do it way differently, just because I believe that I don't know everything, and I want to share in the abundance and the resources and the liability and the risk. But if I was the type of individual that had enormous energetic capacity to just go, I'm not one of those people anymore, the way that I thought I was 5-10 years ago. So I just don't want to. I've had adrenal fatigue at least twice in the last 5 to 7 years, and it's pretty horrible. And I just can't. I wouldn't be able to serve the people I want to serve just by myself. So therefore, that's why the partnership thing is. It's a good option for an individual like myself who just believes in wanting to share. It just has to. I want to date those individuals way longer than I did the first time.
Yeah. And then also too, in terms of like running the CrossFit, also your chiropractic location, you said you had the CrossFit in 2012, 2017, so that 5-year clip. Were you running Barefoot Rehab in tandem with that? What was the I guess overlay in terms of having both facilities?
They were both coasting, and neither of them were doing well. I'm so grateful that the clinic is where it is today, given the fact that I was trying to juggle these two giant things. But I wasn't in a place to be. I hadn't fully figured out certain things and delegated those things to individuals who I trusted before trying to take on all this stuff. And that's my MO all my life, is I'm going to do everything by myself right now. And I've had to suffer a lot to learn those lessons, that I'm going to focus on 1 or 2 things over the quarter or 3-month period. And then until those things are done, I'm not going to go and look into the future, because it doesn't work.
Yeah, like literally that touches me so much. And our business model here at Fit Body Bootcamp Fitness Franchise Podcast, we basically started implementing what's called the EOS, which stands for Entrepreneur Operating System. And it's just a framework of basically how to run the process behind your business. And I'm with you, because I always have the idea fairy, something in this or that. And before you know it, the ideas that I put forth aren't fully executed. So one of the values of the EOS program is you're stuck to whatever your priorities that you set at the very beginning of the quarter, to see those priorities through, because I think that's probably, and it's good to bring up, because it's just a common probably issue and problem that a lot of entrepreneurs face. Would you say that's fair to say from your experience?
Yeah, man. I mean, and especially in the fitness world, Fit Body Bootcamp's a little bit different, but fucking, excuse my language, CrossFit, like what happened in the CrossFit world is people would lose weight and then not have any business experience and be like, I want to start a business and own a gym, and not know how to structure the mindset around like, what do I actually have to do and think about when I'm running a gym. So it's awesome that you guys you're teaching mindset to the people who are in Fit Body Bootcamp. That's amazing.
Yeah, well, it's probably the number one focus, at least to start, and actually continue, because it's, you have a business model which works if you work it, but at the end of the day, it's what's happening in between your 6 inches above your ears, right? So
it's everything. It's everything.
Well, good. Well, unpacking the box, is there another like a last lesson from that CrossFit experience? I mean, creating a proper structure and expectation on partnership, having entrepreneurial experience prior. Would there be one big other takeaway or learning lesson that you learned from that experience that you could basically share as a piece of, I guess, advice or what to look out for our audience?
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely study what the top performers do. The top performing fitness franchises like Fit Body Bootcamp, because I know the job that they're doing. The top performing owners of those franchises, or even the owners of other community-based fitness gyms. It's the fitness world can be hard to get into and to succeed at compared with other industries, and it can be done, and I'm even still attracted to it even though I got out of that bad CrossFit experience. But I want to know what the top performers are doing and follow their recipe for success. Not try to mess with the recipes of it before I actually understand the ingredients of a really successful gym, because I was cocky. And it bit me in the ass big time, and it humbled me. So what are the best doing, and follow in their footsteps.
Yeah. Sage advice, my friend. So speaking of, performance and kind of modeling success, you're a huge guy into personal development. I mean, I feel like that's aside from being a healer, that's a big calling. And how we initially met was through a men's personal development, experience that you did out in California called the Modern Day Night Project. And we've had a couple instructors on the show, but can you talk about, that experience, what attracted you to it, why you did it, and maybe some lessons that you learned from it?
Yeah, I'm always somebody that just wants to push and do my best. I wasn't the biggest football player in high school or college, but I was definitely somebody who threw my body around just because I wanted to leave my best on the field by the time I was done. So anything that really can help me grow, heal, develop is super, super attractive to me. And I realized the value of discipline, of leadership, of communication. And I had been following Bedros for, 6 months or a year. And his messages were always so on point that just reading a stupid Instagram post, I'd be like, okay, that's a game changer. That changed my life. And the fact that he was the person who was leading this program and facilitating it, I try to focus what I purchase from or things that I do on the people who are leading it. Because if I think that their character is good and their values are good and there's somebody who I would like to be like, then I'm just going to do whatever they say. And so I liked his character. And so I went and did this whole program, and I got to see a lot of what I'm made of, and it allowed me to really shift the practice at that time. I think was maybe 6, 7, 8 people. We've doubled that. We have about 16 individuals in our practice. So I'm still working out some kinks, but it's allowed me to step more into this leadership role. And even to the fact now it's run with a Navy SEAL and a Marine and an MMA guy. We call our staff HEAL Team 6 based on that entire leadership training, which our staff, they love it because they get it. Not everybody loves the military here, but they love the concept of having a mission, helping people heal, and also having each other's back, so that we do whatever we have to have our patients and our clients' backs. So it was a life-changing experience, so much so that I've thought about reapplying to it and doing it again.
Oh, how funny. I don't think I've heard that before, but that's awesome. That's awesome, and that's just a testament to your character and wanting to get better, man. So
I appreciate it.
Well, good. Well, now kind of transitioning to really the meat and potatoes, which is really like your calling as an entrepreneur, but more importantly as a healer, right? So I want to kind of showcase, your experience, your story around launching Barefoot Rehab. What's your big passion around? What's your zone of genius? Why did you do it? What have been the highlights of it? And then also too, some of the challenges and tribulations, in your experience of, this entrepreneurial endeavor.
Yeah, I love it. My zone of genius feels to me like it's this ultra rebellious archetype inside of me, based on some of my shame and my wounds and things I learned as an adolescent, combined with this amazing curiosity around what pragmatically produces results, and a very focused outcome of actually helping people heal. So it's like that trifecta that I feel is what I can bring value to as far as an individual who wants my help with chronic pain, suffering, whatever that might be. So when I was in chiropractic school, I was getting adjusted and they weren't working for me. I already had chronic pain by then. And I was like, shit, do I have to quit? Because I can't do something that it's not working for me. And thank goodness that my mentor, Dr. Brady of Integrative Diagnosis, came and gave a speech. And he said, I don't believe that you can help everybody with chiropractic. However, I believe that you can help some people better than anybody else is helping them. And that population was chronic pain sufferers. And I learned about the pathology called adhesion. It's kind of like glue in muscles that causes tightness and weakness. It's to the point now where our clinic is the only clinic certified in New Jersey to find and fix adhesion. And we specialize in helping patients who have had pain more than 6 months and seen at least 3 doctors or therapists. We don't care to treat acute patients. We don't care to treat patients who only have a little bit of pain. We are seeking to transform someone's life by getting rid of their pain, by getting rid of adhesion. So it's become a really focused niche for us to the point where we've grown to 4 doctors. And that's the foundation for the work we do in our clinic. That's the main reason why people come. And then beyond that, I'm always open to exploring whatever helps people get out of pain. So I've dove into anti-inflammatory diets, meditation through Joe Dispenza's work, the Wim Hof method, and then a really deep dive, especially for myself when it comes to psychedelics.
Interesting. I want to kind of that's a lot there to unpack, specifically to an adhesion. We'll kind of take it from there. That's something in watching you on social and obviously being friends, but following you, I think one of your zone of geniuses, or at least outside eyes looking in why you've been so successful, is you're just a passionate guy. You're very authentic. And when you put that energy out and you just so much care, you have so much care and concern, people are attracted to that. And I think that's, at least again, from outside eyes, one of the reasons that you've been successful. Talk to us a little bit more about adhesion. How many people have adhesion? And I know that's a big focal point of a lot of the content that you and teaching that you put out.
Yeah. For individuals between the ages of 30 to 50 years old, I would argue that adhesion is the most common cause of chronic pain by far. And it's also by far the most underdiagnosed. 9 out of 10 of our patients in New Jersey have never, ever heard of this stuff. So it's a really big deal. Some other types of therapists and doctors claim to treat it. Physical therapists, sometimes myofascial therapists, rolfers. We just happen to do it really, really well because my mentor, Dr. Brady's a genius. But it restricts muscles, so it causes tightness. We use flexibility tests to determine where there's adhesion. Okay. And it also causes muscles to be weak. It puts overload on discs in the low back, in the neck, on labrums in the hip, on cartilage in the knee. So pretty much any musculoskeletal condition for about 10 to 20 to 30 years, before people turn 50, 60, 70, it starts as adhesion. So it's this major piece of pain healthcare that is not being talked about enough. It's starting to be talked about more. But frankly, it's really hard for doctors and therapists to learn this well. And I haven't found many people who are willing to invest the time and energy that myself and our doctors are invested in to get better, which is why there aren't a lot of adhesion specialists.
Interesting. And that's probably why, would it be fair to say you're so passionate about it? And I guess, do you have adhesions and do you work them on yourself and your team as well?
They're everywhere, dude.
Yeah.
if I had to bet, like, for if 100 patients came in the door as a random population, I mean, 90 to 95 of them would have significant enough adhesion that they might want to get it removed to increase flexibility. So it might not be the type of thing where they have significant pain, but they might have, for their ankle range of motion, it's supposed to be 6 inches, the knee to the wall. They might have 5 inches instead of 6, and that's a 16% restriction. That's 84%. If they're a runner or they're an athlete, they might be like, you know what, I want 100% capacity in my ankle, so can you remove the adhesion from my calf? So it's tiny little restrictions and flexibility that show where the adhesion's possibly there.
Interesting. Copy that. Well, on that note, and again, you kind of laid out a lot of what you do within Rehab. One of those was psychedelics, which you just talked about, and we've shared some medical experiences together. For me, I'm a recovering alcoholic, and it's not something I'm overly proud to or excited to share, but that's the truth, the situation. And working with you in some of these medicines, as actually there's been a couple big eye-opening experiences and really shifts in my mentality specific to the relationship. So I don't know how comfortable you are sharing, but would love to kind of at least open it up for you to kind of give some insight to our viewers.
Yeah, I'm happy to share. These medicines are still illegal, the psychedelic medicines, but they have changed my life and my partner Katie's life so much that I share my experiences with our patients and people who ask about it, because these are becoming the gold standard treatments for things like PTSD. MDMA or ecstasy is the gold standard for PTSD. Magic mushrooms or psilocybin cubensis is the breakthrough therapy for depression. Ketamine helps with depression. These things help with anxiety and the negative repressed emotions, all these types of different things. The very first time I drank ayahuasca 8 years ago, it took a while for it to kick in, and eventually when it did, I remember thinking that very first day, this is what love feels like. What?
Yeah.
This is what love feels like, and this plant tea made me feel more love than I've ever felt in my entire life? What the fuck? So, I mean, I was hooked, and I've done a ridiculous amount of ayahuasca, magic mushrooms, MDMA, ketamine. I've done bufo a few times, and these all show us a different perspective on consciousness that allows us to look at both our conscious and subconscious minds, see what's been buried, see what's been repressed. We've had patients who have done ceremonies or medicines with different people. The adhesion treatment's not working for them. They'll come back in after mushrooms or ayahuasca and be like, I'm 75% better. And not only that, but a month later, they're like, my pain's still better. And that's because they dug into some emotional garbage that was buried in their psyche, and they let it out. And then they were not only out of pain, but they were much happier and more joyful by consuming these medicines. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, I'm even hesitant to say, because that's just, I feel like human nature and there's a stigma around it. But I certainly was very cautious and skeptical, I would say, when first learning about it. But going in a couple experiences with you specific to MDMA has actually, and this is actually the first time I've shared this openly,
Love it.
But changed my life actually in two outlooks in the energy and kind of the level of consciousness. We're around two relationships, one with my mom and one with my sister. And I think the breakthroughs that I've had have exponentially bettered my relationships there. So I want to acknowledge you for that. And just something from a talking point, because you added so much value in my life, I wanted to at least share it with our audience and listeners at home.
Again, I love your vulnerability and authenticity, and I appreciate your trust. The MD, I just watched, there's a documentary called Trip of Compassion that came out about 1.5 years ago about how MDMA helps people who have trauma. And I firmly believe that 100% of us have trauma, whether it's big T trauma or whether it's little t trauma. So it could just be that some bully did something to us in the 5th grade and that traumatized us, and that we've been carrying this thing with us for the rest of our lives. And the MDMA specifically allows us to feel our body and be so inside this me suit more so than anything could make us present in, and that allows us to go and look at those wounds and traumas and be complete and integrated with it. So I love that what you shared about those relationships, because that's what it's all about, is how when we heal ourselves, the people in our lives get the benefit.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I want to acknowledge you for that. You do incredible work, and certainly there's a lot to unpack, but I wanted to kind of touch on that. Now, kind of shifting gears still within your practice, I want to kind of talk a little bit about the business aspect of it, because really our audience are excited, either maybe have launched a wellness or a fitness business, or they want to launch a business, whether it be fitness or franchising. So just in general, so I just want to kind of get some insight from you on how the journey has been, how what have been the big highlights in terms from a business perspective. How did you become a great marketer and leader, and kind of what does it really take in order to run a successful practice like you've done over the last going on 5+ years? Yeah,
I appreciate it. I think most people probably know in their blood if they're an entrepreneur or not. Mm-hmm. It's not the easy path. No. I think it would have been easier to get a job and to let somebody else tell me what to do. There's fear and there's risk around, not only do I have to support myself and my family, but I have to also support the people who are working as SEAL Team 6 in our clinic, and I have to make sure that the patients are getting served for coming in here. So it's just a lot of responsibility. Mm-hmm. And if you're somebody who wants to get into health and wellness, really knowing where your heart sits with that, like, is this something that you truly will bleed, sweat, and die for, I think is a really important question when it comes to anything that transforms health. So it's been quite the journey. We have to be willing and open to learning a lot of different skill sets, at least in the beginning, until we can delegate those various skill sets. Mm-hmm. So learning copywriting and buying courses for that, and then learning different platforms and Instagram, now TikTok, before that YouTube, Facebook, learning how to lead, even learning how to do, I suck with just business infrastructure, like making sure that I get the right forms when we hire somebody to so we can pay them appropriately, or so that we have their agreements. And so now we're at a point where we have somebody who's stepping into an operations role for us, because I suck at it, and I'm not good at it, and I'm only just holding us back every time that I focus there. So doing what we can in the beginning, mastering those skill sets, and then as soon as we're able to, because we have enough resources, finding people who we can trust, who believe fully into the vision that we're creating for the world, and then giving them the keys to the kingdom and making sure that they're being rewarded nicely, handsomely, for helping serve the mission that we say that we want to serve. Like, that's been the overarching part of my entrepreneurial path in the clinic.
Yeah. And there's just so much there to unpack, right? Like, you being a doctor, obviously leading the practice, but you talked about the leadership, the operations, the HR. I mean, there's so much work that goes involved in, any entrepreneur's life. What would you say, your, 80, 90% focus, is it on one specific aspect of your business, or is it just, kind of overseeing the whole ship? I think that'd be valuable, to the up-and-coming practitioner to kind of get some insights what it is like from a focus perspective in running a successful practice like you have.
Yeah, I love it. I'm realizing that where I should be spending the most of my time, that I never really realized this before last year. I had actually a patient who's been a patient for a few years. She said to me, she's like, "Chris, you see stuff." And I said, "What?" She said, "You see stuff." And I was like, "What? I have vision?" Okay, got it. It took me months. I'm realizing that I see where things could go, and I need to, like Jocko Willink talks in his book, that the leader of the Navy SEAL group, as soon as he starts grabbing a gun and shooting, he's not having his eyes 360 around everything that's going around. So he can't figure out what the group needs to do. So he needs to never ever grab a gun. He lets his people grab the gun. I need to stop grabbing the metaphorical gun or being in the day-to-day and allow myself the space to really see, to connect the dots, to incorporate different types of healing, to allow people to heal. Like last year during COVID, we started including a lot of Joe Dispenza's meditations, accessing the mystical formula for healing, accessing the quantum field. So that's something that I wouldn't have been able to do it if I was just doing the day-to-day so much. So it's connecting dots is how I view my role. And I think a really good business owner, I remember Bedros at one point, he said, if I'm doing my job as a leader, it looks like I'm doing nothing. And that made sense to me.
Yeah.
Is the leader should be putting the right people and systems in place.
Yeah. Amen to that. So if you're going to unpack this experience from a 30,000 foot view, and you kind of touched upon this already, but what would you say, not only is your zone of focus, which you just kind of articulated, but what is your zone of genius? Why has Dr. Chris been so successful in kind of creating this? And then kind of go hand in hand, probably not only your zone of genius, but what is just your true passion? I'm curious on those, that two-part question.
Yeah, one of my signature strengths from a positive psychology perspective is definitely an insatiable curiosity. I love reading. When I'm really stressed out or I'm not doing well, I'm not reading books, and that's a sign to me that something is wrong. So because of my love for reading books, which is funny, my 3-year-old Bear, who you met, and he loves reading. He loves it. It's so fun. I love it. So that curiosity combined with the rebelliousness of myself, it allows me to not do the conventional thing. I'm very focused on results, whatever I might have to do to get them, and that just creates a recipe that people can often see that the way I live my life is I want to allow a space for people to do the fucking healing that they have been wanting to do for decades of their lives. And that just being willing to entertain a lot of different options.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense. Rebelliousness with curiosity put together.
Amen. And I think that's a big learning lesson, because most times I feel like entrepreneurs do have that seed of rebelliousness because they are not happy or satisfied with the status quo. That's why they're willing to take massive risk, right? Put everything in line in order to see their vision come to life. And then to your point of having this insatiable, you call it, like I call it passion, but in your words, the curiosity, it's like that curiosity drives you to be better, drives you to become better at your craft. And when you do that, you elevate, you can add value and certainly make it a win for everyone.
Dude, 1,000%. I think Seth Godin said that when you the people who make the world are the business owners, because inside of your business you get to create a world with rules and guidelines and values. So I love that you said that the entrepreneurs typically are the rebels.
Yeah. Touche. Well, Dr. Chris, man, this has been awesome. I know I would love to keep you forever, but you're a busy guy with the practice. So I do actually have a little lightning round for you, just with some fun questions to basically hammer out to allow you to provide some parting wisdom to our audience. Kind of, again, taking a step back, from the successful operator and chiropractor with a very successful practice that you are today. Before all that happened, and looking at your former version of younger self, what was the one thing in your way that was holding you back? And the reason that's valuable for you to be showcased is because our audience has that one thing, right? And they want some inspiration. So curious what your one thing was holding you back. How did you overcome it?
100% emotional wounds. Just my old emotional shit, the past. I firmly believe human beings are creators. We're gods. We can do anything we want to. And if we're not doing the thing that our heart makes us come alive, it's because we have old crap old garbage that we haven't taken out to the street. So the garbage man can take it away. So, and then it's just focus on doing whatever I could to heal. Between the psychedelics, reading, meditating. Recently I've been getting into EMDR, imago therapy for my partner Katie and I. Anything and everything to heal.
Awesome. Next up, you're in the business of giving great advice to your clients and those who follow you. What would you say, in your words, is the best advice you've ever received, and why?
The advice that's been sticking with me the most over the past few months, it was actually Bedros who told it to me. Stop trying to figure out how. ask yourself who. All my life, I've done everything by myself. Even at the project, I got in trouble a bunch of times because I was running away from my boat crew. It- so for me, trusting people around me, finding people who I could see that they get our mission, they get their vision, and that we're going in the same place. I want to continue to find out who can help me create this world that I see.
Beautiful. Next up, success is about creating habits. What would you say is a habit that you've adopted in your personal life that has been really, a catalyst for the success that you've achieved, but either personal or professional?
Yeah. One of my favorite thought experiments is a meditation that I call the deathbed meditation. I think I got it from a Stoic practice. I don't remember. But almost every day, if not for a minute or more than that, 10 minutes, very often, I'm constantly thinking about what it's going to feel like to be on my deathbed. And I see myself as an old ass man, 110 years old, whatever, surrounded by my children, grandchildren, great grandchildren, grandchildren, all the people that I've been able to impact in my life, all the people I get to serve in the beautiful home that I'm imagining creating. And whenever it comes to an important decision or choice, I go there and then I talk to myself here. So I allow that deathbed self to dictate the actions that I need to take now, no matter how scared or resistant or how much I don't want to do something. Deathbed Chris almost always wins.
Yeah.
So that habit.
That's amazing. And we haven't actually talked about this, but it doesn't surprise me that you've referenced Stoic philosophy, which I'm a huge fan of. And sometimes the negative connotation, it could be a little dark, etc. But I think if you look with that, kind of reverse engineering your life mentality, which you just, laid out and probably better articulated, you're going to always make the right decision, right? When you have that perspective in mind.
You're getting your own ego out of the way, and that's why it works.
Yeah. All right, next up, leaders are readers. You referenced, one of the things that you love, is to read, and if you're not reading, kind of something's off tilt. What would you say is your best book recommendation for Fitness Franchise Nation, and why?
This may be a little bit unconventional. Awareness by Anthony DeMello. It was a book that I kept hearing about over and over and over again on Tim Ferriss's podcast, and I kept resisting it, and then I picked it up and read it. This guy used to be a priest, but then he wasn't like one denomination. He kind of had a very multifactorial background from different religions and spiritual practices, and it's just about living with your eyes wide open. Just becoming aware of everything in your environment. There is a spiritual aspect to it. And one of the things that really stuck with me then is that if you're being aware and eyes wide open, spiritual, you are being selfish. So you need to take care of your own consciousness and meat suit first before anybody else's. And if anybody else outside of you is telling you that you're selfish, that person's crazy. So Awareness by Anthony DeMello was one of the best books I've probably read in 5 years.
Awesome. Noted. I actually haven't read that, which is good. So it's on my list.
Love it. I'll send
All
it
right,
to you.
next up. I don't always ask this question. Just depends. It comes up now and again. But you're such a deep guy, which I just love and have so much respect for. So it's a bit deep question, but I think it's valuable for our audience to know what are the core elements. What should be your priorities be from a business perspective? So hypothetically, Dr. Chris, all the success that you've achieved to date has been wiped away from you. However, when you wake up tomorrow, you still have all the knowledge that you've acquired over the last few decades of your experience and life. What would your next 30 days look like to basically reconstruct the life from a personal or business perspective? What would those next 30 days look like?
I love it. This is amazing. I love thought experiments like this. So yeah, this is very easy, and I actually got this from the Stoics as well. I would find the most... So for me, for Chris, I have probably about 5 to 10 people in my life who I've thought about, or I continue to think about dropping all my shit and just going to that person and being like, yo, I'm at your service. Let's go. So what I would do is I would find the most influential person around me who was doing the thing that I was most passionate about, that had a massive vision that could contain my vision for my life inside of it. And I would take the $500, do some research, spend that $500 on the thing that would show that individual how serious I was to come on board and serve that person. And then I would serve that person according to the canvas strategy. I believe Ryan Holiday talks about this. I would just canvas or clear out the path in front of them so that they could go as far and as fast as possible. And then ultimately, inevitably, what typically happens is if you continue to clear the path out for an individual, eventually that person comes back and look at you and says, oh, wait a second, what do you want? You've helped me so much in your life. I think I want to do something for you. So what can I do for you? And I would just serve them until I got that opportunity to have an ask.
Yeah, and I guess the foundational in that and kind of is really modeling success, right? And serving and providing value, and also the law of reciprocity. There's just a lot of things that that we can unpack from that, and it's an incredible answer. So thank you.
Thank you, Bryce.
All right, my friend. So we're almost out of time here. I want to make sure, though, to tee up and be able to give our audience a way to connect with you. And I'll certainly tee up our media team as well. They hit a graphic on the screen. Number one, where can our audience connect with you? And number two, what would be a last parting piece of wisdom that would benefit our audience, either life, whether it be personal or business perspective?
Yeah, Barefoot Rehab on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. You can contact us, DM us. If you DM us on Instagram, my team will just let me know that you're contacting from Bryce's podcast, and awesome. You could communicate me from there. If I was gonna die tomorrow, what one piece of wisdom would I want my kids to know, but also share for the podcast?
Sure.
Trust your emotions. I don't see enough people talking about it in 2021. Our emotions are superpowers. Our society does not teach people how to feel. There's massive fear and darkness in our society right now. Our emotions have messages that come from our spirit that are trying to help show us our path and our way. And when we shut those emotions down, it inevitably causes more suffering. And if you learn how to feel those emotions very, very deeply, this entire world opens up that is really unexplainable.
Profound, man. Love it, my friend. Thank you so much. And this has been awesome. I was super excited about this interview, and this has even overexceeded my expectations. Before we let you off run for the day, Dr. Chris, man, I just want to acknowledge you for being who you are. As I mentioned earlier, like your heart, your energy is really, I guess, is incredible, and you really bring a lot of value to someone's life, and you've done that for me, and you've really empowered me to be the better version of myself because of your vulnerability and authenticity. And I know it's not about me because you've done that for an incredibly amount of people in your community and all the people that you've helped worldwide. So for that, I want to thank you. I want to acknowledge you, and certainly thank you for being on the show today, my friend.
It's so mutual, man. I love who you are. I love staying connected with you. I look forward to growing into old men with you.
Love it. All right, Dr. Chris, thanks, man. Have an awesome day, and talk to you soon. All right, brother?
You too, my friend.